Hi, Shelley from Spin Cushions here, and today I'm going to show you how to make this pattern from my Siren's Atlas collection called Sulu. It's quite an easy one. It's quite cool with this cross shape made through doing back post stitches. Relatively simple, you just have to pay attention on the corners because they change a little bit. Anyway, I'm going to make mine in a single colour. If you want to change colours, then you will just chain 2 and join with a slip stitch at the end of each round, and just start your new colour in a new corner. So you can start with a magic circle as I've just done, or a chain 4 joined into a loop. And the first round is simply chain 3 starting chain or a false stitch, as I like to do. And then, sorry, I've just changed my position, I'm a little bit awkward. And then we do 15 trebles UK, doubles US in our magic circle. Okay, so that's one. So I will pause it, adjust my camera so it's better, and I'll show you what I have to do when you finish this round. So there'll be 16 stitches in total in this round. Okay, so I've done my 16 stitches. So I'm going to pull my magic circle tight. I'll weave in that end later, and just join with a slip stitch to the top of your third chain of your starting chain, or the top of your false stitch if you did one like me. Okay, nice and easy that round. Okay, so round 2, we are going to do a chain 3 starting chain or a false stitch if you do it like me. I'll do a treble UK WS in the same space as our slip stitch. Then we are going to do a front post stitch around the next stitch. We're going to do that was a front post treble UK, front post WS. We're going to do a treble UK WS in the next stitch, and then a front post stitch around the next stitch. Then we are going to do our corner in this this round is 3 stitches. So 3 trebles UK, 3 doubles US. 1, 2, 3. So our sides are the 2 front post stitches with 1 normal stitch in between, and our corners are 3 stitches. So I will work my way around and show you how to finish off this round. Okay, so my repeats are done. I just need to do 1 stitch in the same place as our first stitches, which is down here. Then I am going to join with a slip stitch to our first stitch, whether that's a chain 3 starting chain or a false stitch. Okay, that's round 2 done. Round 3, we're going to chain 3 starting chain. We're going to do a stitch in the same space as our first stitch. I've just realised I told you if you're changing colours to chain 2 and join with a slip stitch at the beginning, you don't need to do that. We're just doing slip stitches all the way through with this one until the very last round, so just ignore what I said at the start. Okay, so now we're going to skip 1 stitch, and we're going to do a front post stitch around the next stitch, which is the front post stitch we did before. Then we're going to do a pardon me, treble UK WS in the stitch we just worked around. So we've just worked around the post of this stitch, so we're going to go back behind that stitch and work a stitch into that stitch as well. So at the start of your round, you're going to be working around and in the same stitch. Then we are going to do a back post stitch around the next stitch, which is that wasn't the front post stitch in our previous round, it's the middle stitch of the last one. So back post treble UK, back post double US. Then we are going to do a stitch in the next stitch. So this is our front post stitch. We're going to do a stitch in it. Then we're going to do a stitch around it. So again, we're doing 2 stitches in the same stitch, 1 around the post, 1 in the stitch. We're just doing it in different order. Here we start with the front post. Here we finish with the front post. Then we are going to skip that last stitch, and in the middle, you see our 3 corner stitches. In that middle stitch, we're going to do our corner again, which is, again, 3 stitches. Trebles UK, doubles US. 1, 2, 3. So there we go, that is our side and our corner. I'll work around and show you how to finish off. Okay, I've done all my repeats. Again, I just need to do my stitch in the same space as my first stitches. Whoops. Sorry. Fumble fingers today. Then join with a slip stitch to your first stitch. And that is round 3 done. Okay, now round 4. The rounds are all very similar, but they all are all slightly different, so you do have to read the pattern. You can't just keep going as you have just been doing. So chain 3 starting chain or false stitch, then a treble UK WS in the same space as our slip stitch. Now in round 4, we're not skipping a stitch, we're going to do a treble UK WS in the next stitch. Then we're going to do our front post stitch around the front post. Then in that same stitch, I'm going to go back and do a stitch in that stitch. Then we're going to do a back post stitch around the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to do a stitch in the next stitch, then a stitch around that same stitch, then a stitch in the next stitch, oops, then we're up to our corner, which is 3 stitches again. So there you have it. We start to see our little ridges starting to appear between our V shapes. I will work my way around and show you how to finish off this one. Okay, round 4 nearly finished. I just need to do a stitch in the same place as my first stitches here and join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. And that's round 4 done. Round 5 is fairly similar. We're going to do chain 3 starting chain or false stitch. Then we'll do a stitch in the same space. Oops. Then we're going to do a stitch in the next 2 stitches. Then we're going to do a front post stitch around the next stitch. A stitch in that same stitch we just worked around. Then we're going to do a back post stitch around the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, whoops, 3, 4, and 5. We'll do a stitch in the next stitch and a stitch around that same stitch. Then we'll do a stitch in the next 2, and that is our side done. Now we have to do our corner, which is 3 stitches again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so again, you can see our ridges are getting bigger progressively as we go up. I'll do my repeats and show you what to do next. Okay, this round nearly complete. Just need to do my last stitch and join with a slip stitch to that one. Okay, round 6 is pretty much the same. We're just doing more stitches than we did in the round before. So chain 3 starting chain, stitch in the same place as our first stitch. Then we're going to do a stitch in the next 3 stitches. 1, whoops, 2, 3. We do our front post stitch and our stitch in the same stitch. Then we're going to do a back post around the next 7, I think it will be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, goodness me, sorry, 6 and 7, stitch in the next stitch, stitch around that same stitch, and a stitch in the next 3. 1, 2, 3, and that's our side, and the next one is our corner, 3 stitches as we have been doing before. So I think you've probably got the idea of this now, but the next round is slightly different. So I will work my way around and show you what is different in the next round. Might be long. Okay, almost the end of round 6. I just need to do a stitch in the same place as my first stitches. I swear it only happens when the camera is on. Alright, join with a slip stitch. Okay, now round 7 is very slightly different. We're going to chain 3 starting chain, or false stitch, stitch in the same place as the next one, stitch in the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to skip a stitch and we're going to do our front post stitch. So we're just adding a skip a stitch in along our thing. So we've done our stitch around the stitch, now we do a stitch in the stitch. We do a back post around the next 9. I will fast forward this bit. And 8, 9. Now we'll do a stitch in the next stitch, a stitch around that same stitch. Then we're going to skip the next stitch and do a stitch in the next 3 stitches. So skip that one, 1, 2, oh goodness me, 3, and then we're back to our corner, which again is 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that is round 7, which is the last round. We've got front post and back post stitches. I'm going to show you what's next. Okay, round 7 almost done. We are going to do a stitch in the same place as our first stitch, and we are almost done. Just one more round to go, which is a very simple round. It's double crochets UK, single crochets US all the way around. So we'll start with one in the same place as our slip stitch, and we're just going to do a stitch in every stitch along the side. There should be 21 stitches along the side, and in each corner space, in each middle stitch, where's my corner gone? Here it is. We're going to be doing a stitch, 2 chain, a stitch, double crochets UK, single crochets US. I'm sure you can handle that. I'll come back around, finish it off, and show you what to do if you want to change the size. Okay, I've been all the way around, just need to do a stitch in the same place as my first one, which is over here. Chain 2, and join with a slip stitch to our first stitch. That's it. I'll snip that off. All right, now you can tell that this one is going to like a bit of a block to make it nice and flat, but a quick block will bring it all nice and square. Absolutely. Sorry, my fingers out of the way. Now, my sample that I made originally in Cascade Ultra Pema, you can see it's quite a bit bigger. I've actually altered the pattern, so there's an extra row here. I've taken this out in your actual pattern. So this is what I've done in paint box yarns, cotton. So if you need to make it a bit bigger, just add another round like we did before. If you need to make it smaller, you can just leave off that last round to make it to your size. So there we have it. Sulu from my Siren's Atlas collection. Make sure you check out spincushions.com for more crochet fun. Thanks very much. Bye.